the sixth largest economy in the world, home to some of the highest ranked universities in any world ranking. A 2-year PSW or stay back period during which master's students can stay back and look for a job, which has been cut to 18 months recently, by the way, but still a good enough number. All of these factors are true, but yet I'm telling you that the UK is one of the worst places where you can do a master's degree at this point in time if return on investment is on your mind. Now I'm going to be extremely blunt with this video, and this is only because a lot of you have to hear the truth. So stay tuned. So like my last video on Australia, I'm going to give you some hard numbers so that you can digest and absorb the reality and then give you my explanation for the same. If I start telling you stories and logic, you don't want to listen. So I'll give you the numbers first and then move into why this is happening. So here we go. I'm reading out some stats here. This is data from 2022, 2023, roughly about the same. Only 19% of students who go on to a UK university for a master's program have moved on to a post-study work visa. 19%. This is a startling number in itself. Okay, let's assume that you'll land up within the 19%. You are hardworking. You are very, very lucky. Among this 19%, 60%, right, 60% of the folks on this post-study work visa were earning less than £30,000 per year. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd be very, very apprehensive of surviving in the UK on £30,000 per year after taking an education loan and paying a significant amount for my master's education, and you have to repay with interest as well. That is not a situation you want to be stuck in. Now, I understand that there is a global flux in the other popular destinations, and you're hearing some sort of negative here and there about the US, maybe a little bit about Germany and all places. And it's natural to look at alternatives, but blindly going to the UK, turning a blind eye to the data and the information that has been coming through for the past decade or so, and picking it as a study abroad destination and regretting it later is not wise. And I'll tell you why the situation is and why the situation won't likely improve in the coming years. Now, basis of these numbers, you can see that it is extremely unlikely that you're going to get a job in a field that is relevant to you post a master's degree in the UK. The percentages have been mentioned and the links and sources have been placed in the description, so you can check it out for yourself. But the problem is not with the UK. It is because we are not thinking things through while picking countries for a graduate degree. Now, the UK is the sixth largest economy in the world. It's the second largest in Europe behind Germany. That is correct. The truth of the matter about the GDP of the UK also is that if you remove London, right, the GDP of the rest of the UK is about the size of the state of Mississippi in the US, which is America's poorest state. So if you're looking at alternatives, at least pick good alternatives. Now let's move on to the sectors and what sectors are strong in the UK and which sectors are not. You have to understand that unlike the US, unlike Germany, unlike maybe the Netherlands to a large extent, the UK economy is driven by the service industry. It's not driven by the two industries that you as engineers would want to be hired in, which is tech or software or the manufacturing sector. You will have to understand that when a country is being driven by these two sectors, that is where the job opportunities are going to be for people with specialized skill sets, which is you as a master's student. In most countries, it is the tech and the manufacturing sectors that hire international students largely. In order for you to be hired as an international candidate in the UK, companies will have to show why they need to go above and beyond to hire an international candidate, because the work permit process can be expensive and it's also complicated. Therefore, the economic growth and the demand for employees should be so significant that the local talent is not meeting it, and therefore they're looking at international students. The tech and manufacturing sectors in the UK are simply not strong enough, and they don't see that sort of demand for employment. So the likelihood of you getting a job as an international student becomes very, very limited. The UK is largely driven within the services sector by the education sector and the financial services sectors. Of course, if you want to do an MBA in finance or a master's in finance from one of the top tier schools, maybe then you're slightly better off. But if you want to do an engineering degree and you're a computer scientist or a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or a chemical engineer, then doing a degree that is within tech or within your core competency is not a good idea at all. Think about it yourself. What products or what tech do you use every day? Think about the cars that you drive or the apps that you use, and think about where these companies are headquartered. Which UK based product are we using? Now, of course, there's going to be somebody very smart in the comments saying that we have Land Rover and Range Rover and then we use Philips. I'm not talking about legacy companies from decades ago. We know who owns Range Rover at this point in time, and a large part of the manufacturing has been shifted to Pune, but that's a separate issue altogether. What new age emerging companies from the UK are we using worldwide, and you will get a sense of what kind of talent they need in their home bases. Think about it in the contrary to Germany or the US, and you have your answer right there. It's simple common sense. Now let's talk about the 2-year PSW, which has been reduced to 18 months. A lot of you are thinking about the UK as an alternative, even though evidence and news over the past few years has discouraged you to do so because of things happening in the US. But you don't read the news deeply, we only look at media hype. The UK Home Department, which is essentially the Interior Ministry or the Home Ministry in the UK, has been actively trying to discourage immigration. They have been at loggerheads with the Education Department to reduce the number of students coming in. That is the reason why the PSW has been reduced to 18 months, and there is a push to reduce it further. Of course, the Education Department is pushing back because they want more students being enrolled at their universities, because there are a large chunk of revenue for these universities at this point. I told you the UK is driven by the education sector, so it's a purely economic decision at this point in time. But when the Home Department itself is saying that there is no scope here, there are no opportunities, we want to reduce net immigration, do you want to be crowding the country? Probably not. So again, think a little logically. So a pause with a little bit of positivity amidst such negativity in this video. Now, if you want to be a part of a WhatsApp community where fellow aspirants and applicants such as yourself evaluating various countries are having constructive discussions every single day, and Gradvine's mentors are available to give you honest advice as well, you can join our WhatsApp communities. We are over 1800 strong for this year, and we had a community of over 6,000 in the previous intake. So join this group and you will be updated with all the latest news and what your fellow applicants are discussing. So here are a few more reasons. The PSW. Now, just putting in a post-study work permit making immigration friendly is not going to form a hiring habit among companies. A vast majority of students who were coming into the UK before the PSW era were going back. The exact percentage will pop up on screen. My editor will put it out there. But if you suddenly say that there's a PSW and companies can hire international candidates, the hiring habit has not formed among companies. Therefore, there is no particular quota or a particular set of jobs where companies are certain that they will meet that demand through international candidates with certain skill sets. That hiring habit has not formed since, and therefore you're not going to magically get a job just because the PSW has been introduced or it has existed for a bit now. And here is another startling fact which you have to keep in mind. Since 2013, the average household income in the UK has remained about flat. Therefore, the economic opportunities are not present for local citizens itself. You as an international candidate, I've already explained to you why you would be one of the last preferences to be hired. So when there's no demand for local talent itself, you have very limited scope to be hired as an international master's student. Inflation since Brexit has also gone up. Therefore, the cost of living is extremely high. So even if you are among those 19% who decide to stay back on that work visa with the salaries, 60% of which are again below £30,000, you are going to have a very, very difficult time in terms of surviving in that country. I get hundreds of DMs over the year with students talking to me about their situation, coming back to India, asking me to refer them for job opportunities in India or look for an alternative master's degree elsewhere. You don't want to fall into that trap, because logically and with all the information in hand, you can see that it's a poor decision. So guys, there are going to be dime a dozen other sources of marketing and information that are going to contradict this video and try and sell the UK as a fabulous destination for studying abroad. Now, this is because pretty much all UK universities except the top tier ones are tied up with local consultants, and a lot of these local consultants are now in the fancy guise of edtech, and they're going to have celebrity endorsements and a whole bunch of different things trying to tell you how the UK is a fantastic destination. The process is easy, you don't even need an IELTS score, you'll get an admit in 3 days or 4 days. Now, nothing that comes that easy is going to be worth it for you. All the places and universities that give good career outcomes and opportunities will have a filtering and a selection process, so go through that grind. Yes, you might be sold on the fact that the UK education might be cheaper because they are 1-year degrees, but even then, sinking a lower amount is still sinking an amount. You're not going to get ROI. So please make a wise decision. Once again, the easiest thing for us to do is to get a code and tie up with a bunch of UK universities and play along with this wave and send you there. But we will not do that because it's not in your long-term interest.